Hello and welcome to the second annual welcome to the second IDCTA Tales and Secrets from the Judge's Box live stream interview with Marilyn Payne. I am your host, Eric Dirks, and with me today is a highly decorated FEI judge. She has judged the Olympic Games twice, once as a ground jury member in 2008 and the other as the president of the ground jury in 2016. She has led the process for writing the current USEF and FEI dressage tests, judges all around the world, and is an active competitor and coach. I really appreciate everyone sending some dressage tests that we could use on this live stream interview. We won't be able to use all of them. We just used some of the ones that had the best quality and that we could basically show everybody what are some of the key points we want to watch for in the dressage tests. Welcome back, Marilyn Payne.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back again. We're going to have a lot of fun with our videos.
So last time we went over a formula that I want to put back on our screen here in just a moment. And this was a formula that you went over with our how you went about judging the test. Can you go over that again for us?
Sure. So this is sort of the mantra of judging. Everyone from the L judges, the L graduates, all through S judges, FEI judges, we use this criteria. And basically, it's the basics, which is the training scale, which is how you train your horse, how well trained your horse is he correctly ridden from back to front, and what the quality of his gaits are, what the rhythm is. And it's really how well trained the horse is at that moment. Then you're looking at that and you have a score in your mind. And then you go to the criteria. So did the horse do the shoulder in? Did the horse do the half pass? Did the horse do the halt? And that you add those two together, and then plus or minus the modifiers. So the modifiers are little things like the horse gets distracted for 1 second, or he spooks in the corner, or he trips in the corner, or the rider gets distracted. Now, there are things that happen, but they're very minor, but it did happen. And so you may take away 0.5. Usually modifiers aren't more than 0.5, but you could have positive modifiers also. Whereas you go across the diagonal at the novice level and you're doing a nice diagonal, and maybe the judge is thinking 7, and then you get the horse bending and you have such an accurate turn in the corner and the horse stays balanced, and you go, wow, I haven't seen a turn, corner like that. So you'll go up a half a point. So you try and get more positive modifiers in your test if you can. And then you come up with a score.
Well, now I'm sure that formula varies quite differently amongst all the different levels. So I thought we'd go from beginner, novice on through advanced, and just talk a little bit about what you would like to see riders improve on in some of these tests and some of the different the differences as we go up through the levels. What are your thoughts between beginner, novice, and novice? I'm sure they're somewhat similar.
Yeah, beginner, novice, and novice are very similar, as you see as we go along. They mostly have all the transitions are between letters. At novice, you do have a couple transitions at the letter. But basically, it's really what you expect of the horse. The judges expect the horse to be have a better connection, maybe a little more forward, have better lateral suppleness, bending. And you really want to see that the horse is on the right track. So here, so this is a novice. I haven't seen these videos, so.
So I'm just going to show you, I have 2 novice videos. This is a pre-novice test. And
beginner
then I have a beginner novice, yeah, sorry, and a novice test. And so just showing some examples of, the test. And I could fast forward and rewind if you feel needed, Marilyn.
Right. And so you just want to, like here, they have big 20-meter circles, which are fairly easy, but on the whole, we see many flat circles. And so it's good to practice with cones and make sure your circles are round, because that would be a modifier. So you might take half a point off if you don't get it. The one thing there, the canter depart in the corner, it's between K and A. So don't panic and ask for it right at K. You want to wait to the moment that the horse is tuned in with you, that he's bending and you feel ready. And I think you all are familiar with that feeling of, okay, he's ready now and I'm going to go. So don't panic and ask him to go when he's not ready. It's better to have a good quality transition. And the same with the transition back, because they ask for a transition between F and B. And you can do it anywhere, and you don't get more points for having it earlier or later, but you will get more points for having a quality balanced transition. And many times at beginner novice, the horses aren't quite as balanced, and they're fairly good on the circle. And then when you go straight, they tend to lose their balance. So I would advise trying to get the transition right as you turn. When you get straight on the long side, ask them then, and you'll probably get a much better transition than if you canter down the whole long side and then ask them.
How about taking up the reins off the free walk? When would you suggest taking up the reins for the free walk? When you go back to the medium walk?
Yes, well, right. And you have to wait. If you look at the directives in the test, it tells you that you develop the medium walk between F and A. So that means you wait until you get to F before you even start shortening your reins. And then you have the corner in order to shorten your reins. And it makes it a lot easier to shorten the reins in a corner, because you can ask the horse to bend, and as he's bending, you shorten the inside rein and then the outside rein, rather than on a straight line. And you can keep them bending and marching forward easier on a turn. And that's why they put it in the corner. It's a much easier transition.
Made a little observation with this particular test. You saw her go around A to go down the center line versus going on the inside of A. Do you have a preference on that?
Well, I feel that it's better, it's easier if you turn before A, because if you go around A, now you're too wide and the horse is falling on its left shoulder, and then you have to turn and straighten them out. And a lot of times you lose the haunches or you lose the other shoulder. So it's usually much easier to get a nice center line if you turn before A, definitely.
Very good. And this is a novice test, and I could actually go a little bit fast forward to maybe even the
right. There's a serpentine. We should do this. The serpentine is 2 20-meter half circles, and
serpentine.
Yeah, and what many judges we find is that people make like a part of a circle and then start going diagonally towards the other side. And you shouldn't be diagonal, you should be perfectly straight for one stride as you're changing the direction. And then—
Now, would you rather have two half 20-meter circles, or would you rather see those two boxed off turns?
No, you definitely don't want that. You want 2 20-meter half circles. It's 2 loops. So they should both look like a 20-meter circle, but only half of it.
Yeah, and this rider did that very well.
Yep.
Very good. Well, then we have a training level test. What are some of the main differences in the training level test versus the novice and pre-novice?
Well, now the training level test, you want the horse to start to develop some thrust, which is you want some push from behind. You want him to carry more weight behind and start to push off, lift his shoulders. And that, to prove that, to show that the horse is developing thrust, they ask for lengthenings at the trot and lengthenings at the canter. And many times what happens is people ask the horse to lengthen and they just push and they go faster and faster. And the tempo, which should never change. And you think of the tempo as the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. If your trot has your working trot coming in has a steady tempo. It should keep that exact same tempo. If anything, when you have a really good lengthening, it'll look like it slows down because you get more air time. The horse is up off the ground for a fraction of a second longer. So it'll look slower, but you never want it to look faster. And a way to help that is to try and really prepare in the corner and try and ask the horse to get more active behind, but half halt, and don't let him go forward yet. Don't let him lengthen his frame yet in his stride. You build the energy like you're coiling the spring. And then when you get to the diagonal, you just open it up. You open your thighs, you give forward, you post a little higher and longer, and the horse naturally will start to lengthen. And
it looks like they say movements like approaching E develop working canter. So is there a time period that you'd like to see the working canter come back from the lengthening? Like, is it like from the quarter line to E, or is it earlier?
Yeah, so you usually would expect that a rider, once they pass the center line, so you're in the last quarter of the circle, that's where you would ask the horse to come back. That we expect that it's not going to be instant, like you're doing an advanced test. So we give you that quarter of the circle to ask the horse to come back. And what you want to see is not just that the horse slows down, but he balances and he comes up more in his shoulders and carries more weight. You don't want to see him just go fast and slow. It's the same as the trot lengthening.
So here we have a training level test coming through, and there's several training level tests I actually could say we could compare to. So, or we could just watch this one come straight through.
So this one is it's the same one, the training B test, and you do the 10-meter half circles. And one thing you want to make sure is that you touch the center line. And you should practice with someone sitting at C when you're practicing, so you know if you're getting to the center line. And so many times, one direction, the horse will fall over their outside shoulder and they'll go too wide, and the other direction, they'll cut in. So you usually have to ride the half circles differently depending on your horse. And then here is where you'd gather the horse and build the energy to lengthen. And they don't expect to see a fabulous extension, but just to see that the horse is reaching forward, stretching over his back. They should lengthen their frame slightly as well as their stride. But this is the key one that everyone struggles with, is the stretch. And this is a pretty good stretch because you see the horse reaching down and you want the nose it has to at least go to the point of the shoulder. And like she did there, maybe you want to replay that because that's interesting to watch. You ask the horse to start to lengthen in the first quarter of the circle. So keep going. There you go.
Oh, so, I'm sorry. Let's do that.
Yeah, you want to ask him in the first quarter of the circle. Did we get there yet?
There he is.
Okay, so this one went down pretty quickly, and that's great. I mean, that's just going to be a positive modifier. That's going to up your score. But as long as you have it for the half circle from the 1/4 line to the other, and then you start picking them up. And by the time you get back to C, or back to A in this case, you should have the horse on the normal contact and with a good working trot.
I think that rider in particular had I think this is one that we would also all like to model. I mean, she just picked up the reins so efficiently and went right to a beautiful canter, and was really well prepared.
Yeah, and that is very difficult in this test because you pick them up and boom, you've got a canter right in the corner there, right coming out of the corner. And it's usually best to ask a little bit earlier. Don't wait until the horse is at K or at F, because then they've lost the bend. They may have lost the bend and they may just run forward and run on into the canter. So I would always ask right as you're coming out of the corner when you still have the bend from the corner.
And this canter has the lengthening on the 20-meter circle in the middle as well.
Yes.
So that comes up really fast.
And
so
that's
you develop
yeah,
it.
the only circle we don't have a regular working canter circle. It's a lengthening right up. This one looks like she's really, really trying to lengthen and really covering more ground. It always looks better in slow motion though too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
but you want to allow the horse to lengthen their frame without letting them fall on the forehand. And then when you change rein and it says trot at X. And so you want to trot as close to X as you can, but you want to trot just by using your seat in your back and not by pulling back on the reins. Just want to let the horse flow into the trot.
What's your opinion with the stretch? And you watch the riders. Are you watching the horse? Are you watching the rider's hands that they're trying to keep them down, or what's
you
your...
mean in the free walk here?
Yeah.
Okay, so well, you're looking at the whole picture, and that's why it takes a long time to develop the eye to try and see everything. But you're looking at, did the rider allow the horse, first of all? And she did. I mean, she allowed the horse to take the rein, and the horse clearly is taking the rein and stretching down. Then you're also looking at the walk. You're looking at the rhythm of the walk, and you're looking at the stride. It's hard to see here, but you want to see that the hind foot steps over the hoof prints of the front foot. And the farther it does, the better quality walk you have. And you want to see the horse really swinging in its back. And you can feel that as a rider, the back comes up and it's really swinging. And then the same movement, well, not actually in the same movement. Now we've separated in these tests. It says H medium walk. So as you pick the horse up, you don't want to see the horse stiffen, but you could have had a super free walk. And then when you come back to the medium walk, it's not as good, but it is in a different box. So we purposely separated that so not to destroy the score of the free walk in case of horse gets tense. But this is a lovely ride. I mean, who wouldn't want to have
It was a lovely ride. And look at her take her time in the halt too, before she saluted.
Yeah, you definitely.
You mentioned something about that last time, about the halt, and how you'd like to see riders take more time in the halt. Can you mention that again?
Right. There's so many times when riders halt and quick salute and drop the reins and walk off. Like, thank God it's over. And that's not a good impression. You want to halt and make sure the horse stands there. You take a deep breath, you salute, slowly pick up the reins. Don't walk off as soon as you pick up the reins, and then walk off and give them a long rein. It should be very, very slow and purposeful. So we know the horse is listening.
And now we come to the preliminary tests. What are some key differences here from the training to the preliminary?
Now we have the leg yields. So now the horse should also still be on the bit and developing more thrust, but now we expect more push from behind. And we expect the horse to be more lateral, supple laterally with the smaller circles and the leg yield. Definitely the leg yields. That's probably the biggest addition. And there's also a little canter in here that we want to see. But before we go to the video, we can talk about the leg yields, because sometimes people think that they have to get over there fast. And you would like to get to the letter, yes, but it's from D to H, so it's a long way. You have a long time to do it. And it's best if you definitely go straight first and get the horse straight as if you're coming down the center line to halt. And then ask the horse to leg yield, because the horse should stay parallel to the long side. So the shoulders and the haunches should be the same distance from the long side. You don't want to see the horse, which happens very often, falling over their outside shoulder. So the shoulders getting to the track first, and the head and neck are overbent to the inside. And some people think you should have a bend, but you should not. You should have no bend, but you should have a slight flexion to the inside. And that just means at the head, at the pole, you have a flexion. It doesn't mean that the neck is flexed to the inside.
Ah,
So
very good point.
it's very small amount of flexion. And it's always good to practice that with mirrors, practice it with people watching you, have people video you, so you can see that from the front, you should just see the chest. You shouldn't see the hind legs. You'll see the crossing underneath the horse. You want to see the legs crossing, but you don't want to see the shoulder or the haunches leading at any time. And the head and neck must be perfectly straight with just that slight flexion, as I said. So,
And it looks like we have a little introduction to counter canter as well.
yeah, that's very interesting. There's, we do this, the circle in the medium canter, and then you've got to get the horse back at E by the time you get to E. But now at prelim, we expect that the transition won't be as gradual from the center line to E. We expect that you'll be closer to E to get it and get a good transition. But then you have this half circle, 10 meters, and you return to the track at R, at K, sorry, H to K. You go to E and then down to K. So you've got to, they're giving you a choice that you can get to the track between E and K. So you can get to it at E, or you could get to it at K. But what's the most impressive is that when the rider rides to E and then goes straight down the side in a counter canter, and then you're showing that the horse is really balanced and really obedient and very straight. They're not falling on their shoulder.
Would that be one of those modifiers you were talking about?
That would be definitely a good positive modifier. Definitely. Right. And it also could be a lower score if you don't maintain the straightness, because many times you see the counter canter as the rider does the half circle, the horse is overbent in the neck and they're falling on their outside shoulder. And then they go across the diagonal and they're still falling on their outside shoulder. So by the time you get to the track, just the head and neck are there and the body never really gets straight to the track, and then they're trotting at K. So that would definitely take your score down significantly.
Very good.
Okay, and now we've got somebody doing it.
Yeah, we got somebody coming down center line.
And with training level and with prelim, you want the trot. Well, there's no trot halt in the beginning, but you want the halt directly from the trot.
This one has the halt going across the center line.
Yes. So you do the 10-meter circle, which again, you've got to practice because so many times you're a meter over or half a meter over and you're going to get points off. And then here's another place. You want to halt. Now, this is interesting. You can stop that. Can you stop it?
Yeah.
Or not? When the horse halted, see if you can find that halt again. First of all, he didn't stand there long enough because this is slow motion and he was pretty quick. But he's resting his left. He's resting his, well, one more step. Yes, but he's resting his left hind leg. So he's not putting weight evenly on all four legs. So if that happens, that can't be any higher than a 6, no matter what else happens, because he's not really balanced and carrying weight on all four legs. Mm-hmm. But you also want to make sure you're on the center line. And she looks pretty. She might be a hair past the center line. It's hard to tell from the video. But if her body was right on the center line, I mean, that's a good positive modifier. And you want the horse to halt and stand still. Take a deep breath, count to 3, and then you have to trot forward. So it's not walk, trot. I mean, it's not trot, walk, halt, walk, trot. You've got to go directly, trot, halt, trot, in order to get a fairly good score.
I'm guessing that's a point that demonstrates the horse's sitting power, right?
Yeah, his balance, his obedience, yeah.
Well, here's your first leg yield.
So here, it's fairly straight, but a little slightly overbent in the neck and a little bit of the haunches trailing. You could just see that right hind leg. But it looked fairly willing otherwise. So, I mean, they might still be able, it's hard to tell from here, but it might still be able to get a fairly good score, like a 7, but you're not going to get an 8 or a 9 unless the horse is really 100% straight. Now we'll see the other way. But see, again, you see it's a little too much neck bend. There's more neck bend than we would like. And it looks like it's pretty parallel to the rail, but of course, it's where we're sitting. We can't tell. Where the judge would be sitting, it would be much easier to tell. But boy, look at that right away. Let's stretch.
Beautiful.
Right away down and way past the point of the shoulder. Now, it doesn't mean that the farther down you go, the higher your score, because if you go too far down and the horse dives on the forehand, then your score is going to be lower. But that was an excellent example of a good stretch. And the same.
The horse showed him. Yeah, the horse showed a nice lengthening in the beginning too.
Yeah, yeah. But boy, this horse can stretch at the trot and at the free walk. That's super. And the reason these stretches, the free walk and the stretch circle were put in there is to show that the horse is really connected from back to front. So when the rider offers the reins, the horse keeps seeking the contact and just keeps going down as far as the rider will give it. So at the end of the test, if you have in the collectives under submission, you're going to get a higher score for submission if you have good stretches. And then here again, we do the lengthening, but now let's see the 10-meter circle, half circle. And the 10-meter half circle doesn't quite touch the rail, by the way. People think it does, but that's 6 meters from the corner letter to the rail. So you only need to come 5 meters up. Okay, can we do that one again?
Yeah. Oops.
Let's just see. Oops, get up there, horse. I mean, it looked fairly well balanced.
So we have our canter here.
Okay, so now we assume that she got to the center line. And now she's heading, she's not getting to E. And she almost went, it almost looked like she went almost to K.
Yeah.
But if it was fairly well balanced, I mean, she still could get a 7, but she wouldn't be getting higher than that. Not that a 7's a bad thing, but let's go for the high scores.
Yeah.
Dressage is so important in a lot of these events now. People all go clean. But that looked like he really lengthened his stride on the 20-meter circle. Now here, now there she went back to the rail sooner. You see how she got to the rail? At least a section of fence before F. And that looked better.
He likes to rest that left hind.
Yeah, he does.
All right. Well, this was another prelim test, but we're going to move to intermediate. So here's intermediate test B. And intermediate, it looks like instead of leg yield, we have a half pass.
Right, and that's a big difference. Yes, the horse goes sideways, but the horse should be looking in the direction he's going, and he actually, his shoulders should be very slightly preceding his haunches, but he should be wrapped around the rider's inside leg. But the horse's head and neck and shoulders are pointed in the direction he's going, and the haunches are directed more straight ahead, like towards the judge. A half pass is actually a haunches in on a diagonal line.
And it looks like we have a medium trot and collected trot instead of a trot lengthening, and then even an extended trot. Can you talk a little bit about the differences?
Yeah, so the medium trots, we want to see that with more push from behind, more impulsion, more of an, what we call an uphill tendency, where the shoulders come up, the horse grows in front, their withers are raised, their shoulders are up, and they develop more self-carriage, which means that the horse is carrying himself in that position. The rider's not holding him up. The horse is becoming stronger behind and lifting his front end more up. And he carries more weight behind, more weight on his hind legs. And that's what develops collection. And you can see that by watching a horse's airtime. Horse that has more boing, more airtime, they have more collection because they're carrying their weight and they stay off the ground for a fraction of a second longer than a horse that's not. And I think you all will notice that.
Yeah. And then we have an extended trot as well. So just more ground cover but staying upright, then the trot lengthening, or how would you describe that?
Yeah. I think you're getting mixed up because we have extended trot at advanced. You're jumping the gun. We only have.
I see. HXF movement 10, extended trot.
Did they throw an extended trot in this one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you write this one?
You're right. Right. I guess I didn't write this one. No. Right. Extended trot. You're absolutely right. Okay. So an extended trot, you want to see more ground cover. You want to see more lengthening of the frame and just more push. And so many times the riders do the same. The medium trot and the extended trot look the same. And so you still might get an okay score in the extended trot, but it should show a difference. It should be different from your medium trot. But on that note, you don't hold back. You don't think, oh my gosh, I don't want to push for the medium because I want to show a little difference. You want to go for it. Try and get the best trot you can get, the best medium trot you can get. And then when you go to extended, by that time, usually the horse is even a little bit better because he's gone farther in the test and he's cantered more, and he might usually has more push from behind, and go for it and try and show more. But don't hold back on the first medium because you know you have to do an extended.
And then we have the extended walk, and we have turn on the haunches as well.
God. We have a lot of things. So the extended walk is not, the legs will look like a free walk. If you chopped off their head, you'd see it would look the same because you want to see ground cover and reach and swing. But the contact that you have is different. So the horse lengthens his frame, but he never lengthens it below the point of the shoulders. You never let the reins loose. It's never a loose rein, whereas a free walk can be on a long rein or a loose rein. An extended walk, you must maintain contact. And you've got to always keep the horse marching forward, but keep him swinging in his back and reaching for the bit. You should always see that he's stretching forward to the bit and taking a contact.
And then go ahead.
Go ahead.
And then that's three-loop serpentine in the canter with no change of lead.
Wait, you're jumping ahead. We didn't do those darn turns on the haunches.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead.
So at intermediate, we ask for turns on the haunches. Once you get to advanced, then it's pirouettes. Now, a turn on the haunches, the horse is inscribing a 3-meter circle with the hind leg. I mean, 1 meter circle with the hind legs. You can make it 1 meter, but it shouldn't be bigger. But if you do it 1 meter, you should get a high score. You could still get a very high score. A pirouette is more right on the spot. And if you did a pirouette instead of a turn on the haunches and did it well, you're going to get a high score. But if you try to do a pirouette and you mess up by the horse getting stuck, your score goes way down, way down. So the most important thing is to keep the activity of the walk. The horse has to keep walking in rhythm, and you have to have control of the haunches. So the haunches should never step out. If they swing out, then that means they're not carrying weight behind, and they're not maintaining the bend. So they have to be bent in the direction they're going, just like in the half pass, they have to be bent in the direction they're going. So they're extremely difficult to do. And it takes a long, long time to teach the horse. And then you finally get it, and then you get in the test and you go, oh, I blew it. It's not easy.
And now the serpentine, 3-loop serpentine in the canter, no change of lead.
And the 3-loop serpentine, that you want to see that the quality of the canter stays exactly the same, whether you're in the true canter or the counter canter. It must stay exactly the same. And most times what happens is the horses say on the left lead, and it gets into the counter canter, and the rider wants to make sure he keeps it, and the horse is way overbent in their neck to the left. And that causes them to fall on their right shoulder and puts them on the forehand. So then they are not balanced, and they're not carrying weight behind, and they're not straight the way they should be. So even though you keep the canter, I mean, at least you kept it. So you're going to get a score above, you know, maybe you'll get a 5, maybe you get a 6, but you won't get the higher scores unless you maintain the balance and the correct bend and flexion.
And I see that this one is in a large arena as opposed to the small arena. So at least we have that.
And I have to tell you, I'll give you, well, we'll do that at the end. I'll tell you about the new test because we're working on the new test. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing we do is the medium trot, and it goes from M to V. And you want to see more lift, and you can see the horses lifting more. One thing that happens many times, this horse wasn't too bad, is that you see the hind legs come out behind, and that means they're not bringing their hind legs under and carrying weight behind and pushing off. So if you get that comment, that's what it is. And then we have to do a shoulder, and this is very difficult to do a shoulder in on the center line and maintain it. So you need to practice that a lot. But it's a good preparation for the half pass, because the half pass, you keep the same exact bend and you just go sideways. And we didn't talk about the rein back, so why don't we talk about that now? So the halt is scored separately. So you want to see the horse halt and stand there. A minimum of 3 seconds. And then you ask the horse to rein back. And too many times you see the rider halt and the horse quickly reins back. And so your score for the halt is going to be lower. And the score for the rein back is lower because the horse isn't waiting for you to tell him. But you want to see clear diagonal steps. And this horse was pretty darn good. You want to see diagonal steps. And
what about the transition from after the rein back to trot?
And that's all part of the rein back score. So you want to see the horse rein back and not halt. The last step, they step back with one diagonal, and then they immediately push off and go into the trot. We'll see what so her halt wasn't so good. It was a little early and not square, and trot, 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 trot. It looked like she was a little slow to trot. It's hard to tell because it's slow motion, but you want to promptly go into the trot. And so that's all part of the score. The rein back is the essence of the movement, but the transition out is a modifier. And then we have our shoulder in again. And it's not a very large, long distance, so it's hard to get that right. But this horse is pretty good. You know, you see he's looking in the direction he's going. He's maintaining the alignment, meaning that it's the same distance with the shoulders and the haunches from the rail. He keeps it the same throughout. And now we have the extended trot. And if you watch where, it's hard to tell, where he puts his hind legs should be clearly past the footprints of the front legs in an extended trot. And then the medium walk, you want to see a nice marching regular walk. And now let's see what happens in the extended walk. So you want to see the head and neck did lengthen. It's hard to tell from here how much contact she has. But it looks like he's maintaining the contact. You want to maintain the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so many times with these event horses, you know, they're fit and they get tense and they lose the rhythm. And if you lose the rhythm once, it's will affect your score for sure. If you lose it twice, but then you're approaching 5 or 4, depending on if they lose the rhythm by just a little misstep or if they actually trot.
Here's your turn on the haunches.
Okay, so watch the, it's hard to, I think that looked pretty good. We'll do the other one. Can this play in normal time?
It is. This is playing in normal time.
That's not normally how the horse goes.
No.
Unless I'm seeing something different, because depending on Wi-Fi.
Oh, it's not fun. Oh, that's funny because see on mine, it looks all the tests look very staccato. You know,
Slow-mo.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like it's slow motion.
Might
and it doesn't look like that on yours?
It looks a little bit on the slow side. I mean, the horse looks a little bit slower in the walk, but.
Oh no, mine is definitely
normal.
Like a step and then a hesitation, then a step and a hesitation.
Yeah, that one's the horse stood still.
That last one though, you see how he stopped?
Yeah.
His left hind, and that's a mortal sin. Can't do that.
There. Right there.
Yeah, and he twists on it and it gets stuck. So that's got to be at least a 4. And it could be lower if there were other things that went wrong. Or if he got stuck for several strides. But the hind leg.
Many of the observers are seeing the same slow-mo.
Okay.
Oh, they are. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Thanks, guys, for being with me.
I thought we were all watching Warm Bloods.
Yeah. So this here at the counter, he looks pretty good. He looks like he's staying balanced and upright. He's not leaning in. He's not falling on his right shoulder. And with this serpentine, just like I said with the novice, you want to see them straight across the center line for a stride. And there very often we see diagonal lines, and then your score is going to come down.
What did you think of the walk, going from simple change from how many strides would you like to see there and walk?
Right. Well, you want a few strides. You don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, but you want to see a clear walk. It has to be a clear walk rhythm in between. You don't want to see canter, stop, canter, and you don't want to see canter and just go to walk and then boom, right into a canter. And for sure, you don't want to see them trot. You're not allowed trot steps into the walk or out into the canter. If you have what I call some muddled steps, it's okay, but it's not. You're not going to get a good score. But it's got to be a clear canter, 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 walk, and then a clear canter again. But it's hard to say. It's hard to tell from my video when the horse is really how he's doing the transition. But there's clear walk steps.
Yeah.
And then clear canter. So this does show with the slow motion that you can see there is.
Sorry about that.
And he's very straight. He was very straight in that change. And now we do the half circle onto the center line.
And I think that's where the video ended.
Oh, it ended.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the halt in the end.
Okay, because this is different because they do the half circle and then they trot at eye. They don't halt. And that's to teach the horses to keep coming forward. And that's scored separately, and then the halt is by itself. And so you'll notice that all the tests, the halt is by itself. So it behooves you to practice the halt.
So I thought we'd move from that to the CCI 4-star test.
Excuse me, Marilyn, you were going to say something about the new tests.
Oh, yes, the new intermediate
yes. Well, the new test period. So
Yeah.
first of all, and obviously they're not done. We're just working on them because we're going to get them done by the end of the year, but then they have to go through all kinds of committees and we have to keep test riding them. But they're for 2022. But one thing that we're hoping to do, and I think we will do it, first of all, every test, which is now 2, all the A's turn left and the B's turn right. But novice and beginner novice, those are basically the same, and the training is roughly the same. You know, they're asking the same requirements. But the prelim, we're going to, as we do now, we do say that you can do rising or sitting. But an intermediate, we're going to do rising or sitting for the mediums. And the extended, that's going to be an option. I mean, that's what we would like to do. Whether they all approve it is another story. But the most exciting thing is we're going to have more tests for prelim and intermediate. So prelim right now has 2 tests, an A and a B, and one's in the large ring and one's in the small ring. So we're going to have 2 small ring tests and then 1 large ring test.
Oh, very
and
good.
then for intermediate, we're going to have 1 or 2, depending on what everybody agrees, but we're definitely going to have an intermediate test in a small arena so that venues that don't have the room can offer intermediate. They don't have the room for a large arena. So, or they have the room, but the footing isn't very good. It's unlevel if you make it into a large arena. So we're trying to get past that. We have 1 or 2, hopefully 2, but at least 1 intermediate test in a small arena. And then 2 in the large, and to encourage organizers to use the intermediate in the large, because we'd rather have it in a large if they have the room. One of the intermediate tests is going to be much shorter in time, so it will match the same time as if you were doing a small arena. Because right now, organizers don't like to run intermediate in the large ring because it takes too long. But if we have the test designed so it's shorter and it'll take the same amount of time whether you have a large arena or a short arena, then those organizers that can will still want to put it in a large arena. Because it's nicer for the riders and it's nicer for the horses, but we do want to make sure that venues that cannot run intermediate in a large ring can still run intermediate. So I thought that was a good thing. So stay tuned.
Well, now we come to the 4-star test, and it looks like we have the pirouettes, like you mentioned earlier. And then when we do a half pass, it looks like more like a zigzag where we go half past X and immediately half past the other direction. Right. And of course, the flying change. But one of the other obvious things that I've seen here is the collective marks. Can you talk about that a little bit? They're different.
Okay. Yes, this is very interesting. So we're all familiar with our collective marks with the 4 scores, the 4 different scores. And what happened when I was on the FEI eventing committee is that there was a big discussion about changing that because the pure dressage, the FEI dressage tests only have 1 score. I don't know if you realize that, but they only have 1 score. And it's a score for rider position and seat and effective use of aids. So it's 1 score. So what we did was we ran a study by taking tests and taking away of the 4 collectives, taking away the position and seat, or taking away the gaits, or taking away impulsion or submission. And the only thing that really mattered was that if you took away the rider score. And what we found was that if you took away the rider score, the good riders' scores ended up lower, like the top riders. And the average rider's scores got higher. Because subconsciously, there's a halo effect. Michael Young comes into your ring, you know it's going to be good, and you know he's a good rider. So subconsciously, when you give the rider score, you go, I can't give Michael Young a 6, you know. And I mean, it shouldn't be that way. And I'm not saying all judges do that, but there's still a subconscious.
Well, I like how you worded that, the harmony of athlete and horse.
So we, for the eventing, instead, we didn't do what the FEI dressage people did. We did our own, and we call it harmony between the horse and rider. And we feel like that's really, really important, that not to say how good a rider they are, but how harmonious they are with their horse. And I can see in art, if we did do this, we're thinking of doing this in our new test, but it's going to be debated. And if anyone would like to have any input, please send me an email, because at the lower levels, maybe we should keep it with the 4 scores so that they know that the horse got the score, and they have a low score of impulsion because they're not riding the horse forward, and the score for rider to talk to them about their position and seat. But definitely at the upper levels, and I'm not sure what yet, but maybe at least intermediate and advanced, we would just have 1 score, which would be this harmony score. And I just think that would make a big, big difference. It helps the time, but it's also important because you're asking about the training. And what we call it is a confident partnership created by adhering to the scale of training. Okay, so now we have our 4-star test. And it's from the side.
It's interesting. I wanted to bring up too. It's interesting to have this from a different view that we've been watching from everything from the beginning, from the C, and now we're seeing it from a side view. That we have several different judges here. Can you comment on that a bit?
Absolutely. So we have the judges. We have in this test we have 2 judges. We have one at C and one at B. And many times you hear that, oh, the judges' scores aren't the same. And if any of you have watched Kentucky or badminton, or Billy, oh, the judges' scores aren't the same. That's terrible. Well, in fact, it happens. And the reason it happens is because of your perspective. And we'll see this. You can watch this test and I'll explain to you where you see different things. From the side, we cannot tell if this horse is really straight. If he was super crooked, sure, but we can't really tell. But what we can tell, did he halt at I? No, he's a little bit early. The judge at C can't see that. And the judge at C can't see if he was square. If he's perfectly straight, the judge at C could give him an 8 or a 9 because he looks so straight. But in fact, he's not square. So the judge on the side would give a lower score. But from the side here, there's a medium trot, and you really see that much better from the side, and you can reward it much higher. It's much more impressive to watch from the side than it is to watch from the front. And then the same thing here, we do there's a shoulder in. Can you tell if it has enough angle? Not really, but the judge on the front can. And so the judge on the side is really just commenting on the quality of the gaits and the suppleness, but not really on how correct the shoulder in was. And then we have the extended trot here. And again, from the judge's point of view, they see a lot of hindquarters, and from the side, you see a much better difference in the length of the stride, the length of the frame. So here's our half passes, and we can't tell so much right now of how correct it was in the alignment, but we can tell the quality of the trot. We can tell that he's bending, especially in this direction when it's coming towards us. But you want to see a clear change of bend from one to the other within the zigzag, and that's hard to do. And then we're going to have our walk pirouettes now. So if you watch as a judge, you mostly try to stare at the hind legs, the most important thing, and to see where he's stepping. And I mean, that was that was a correct pirouette. But that one looked a little bit bigger, very slightly bigger, but it also depends on where the judge is sitting. The judge at C is going to see it much better than the judge at B or E. And here the extended walk, it's a good lengthening. See how the horse is stretching to the contact? And you can see how he's reaching and swinging. He really has a good quality walk. And this is where you can really get high scores. And then you want to see that the transition back to the medium walk. And he didn't stiffen. He stayed very soft and supple. And then we've got the Canada part right at C. Both judges can see that pretty well. And right away, we're going to lengthen the stride, doing a medium canter. And now, I mean,
and this was half pass and canter.
You're really right. I know. And it's like, if you didn't know that was supposed to be a half pass, it's pretty hard to be sure, right?
Yeah.
And then we do our flying change. So that was beautiful. He's on one lead, then all of a sudden he's on the other lead. I mean, you didn't see any hesitation, any stiffness. It was just like magic, one lead and then the other lead. And so that's where he gets really high scores on these flying changes. And then again, we've got the half pass, but we can see from the side, we can see the collection. You see how he's sitting, he's carrying more weight behind in the half pass. And so that's what the judge on the side is going to reward. And if you watch this, and there it is, right lead automatically, without missing a beat. I wish I could see this in real life. I did see it in real life, but I mean, I still have this slow motion. Okay, now there, he's not square, so the judge on the side cannot give they can give a 7, but they're not going to give an 8 or a 9, and the judge from the front might have given a really high score for that. Because it was balanced, and it was obedient, but it's not square. The right hind's back, and the left front's a little bit back. So it all depends on what you're looking at.
Hold on one moment here.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, well, that was very insightful, Marilyn. I really appreciate you going through those tests, and that was very insightful. Love some of the comments. I really want to thank you for your insight. We'll have to do this again sometime. I also want to announce that we have another live stream interview with Denny Emerson come January 13th. So we'll be making some announcements on that, and you'll see how we could get in on that. But Marilyn, thank you. Any closing comments you'd like to make?
Any closing comments? Have fun. No, I mean, well, you just need to go out there and do it. You know, the more you do it, the more you'll feel confident doing it. And I tell you, it would be really good to make videos of yourself, because videos are so truth, you know, they really show the true picture. And I know myself, many times you watch a video and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that, you know, I look like that, or the horse looked like that. Or you're happy that he looks like that. So, you know, it's so good. So the more videos you can do, the more videos you can watch, and the more times you can
I love your idea with cones too.
Yeah, cones are great.
Your idea with cones.
Where
would you, like on at letters, between letters, where your figures go?
Well, Yeah, I always use them on 20-meter circles. So I'll put them on the center line. If you're circling at B or E, I'll also put 2 on the center line. So you've got to go just inside those cones. First, I let the rider do the circle without them and mark where they were. And then I put the cone there and I go, see, you were way over here, because you don't realize it. You just have no idea. But I've also used them in corners to get riders to ride into corners. It's really helpful. And the same for across the diagonal. If you're doing the serpentine, you put 2 cones so that they have to go straight between the cones for the serpentine, and to know exactly where their marker is, where they're going to cross the center line.
I would love for you to make that one last comment, because it's appropriate, leaving the dressage arena. When you do your last halt, you mentioned not just standing long enough, but giving your horse a pat versus feeling disgusted. Can you comment down that again? Just leaving the arena.
You've got to come down the center line, looking positively forward, looking at the judge, like, okay, here I'm finishing the test. I got it. And you halt, you salute, and you have a positive attitude on your face. You've got to look like, okay, this was the best test that this horse has ever done. And surely maybe it's the worst test of the whole day, but it's the best test that horse has done. And so you've got to end with that and salute and smile, or just look pleasantly at the judge. Never look like, oh my God, that was awful, and roll your eyes, and, or never get mad at your horse. Always, stop, pet your horse if you can, and just really look like, this really was good. This was the best he can do today. Oh. And because the judges have not finished those 4 comments at the bottom. And I'm telling you, it will influence them. If you end like you really nailed it, or, oh my God, that was the worst test I've ever done. So.
Thank you very much, Marilyn.
Yeah, on behalf of IDCTA, I'd like to thank you for both of your 2 sessions, and let everyone know that's on the call that we will have it up on the website, the recording of this on the website by tomorrow. And by the way, I don't know if you've been looking at the chat, but you're getting phenomenal comments. Thank you so much.
Super. Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome. Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.